You smell the room before you see it: hot wax, crushed rose, and something heavier, like sweat soaked deep into stone. You're not supposed to be here. The door wasn't marked. The stairwell was sealed. But you broke the wax seal anyway, because you saw the symbol scratched into it. A phallus flanked by wings. You descend. The light disappears behind you. You're lit only by the trembling flame in your hand and the glitter of gold reflecting off the walls. There are carvings, bodies, mouths open, limbs bent, faces caught mid-moan, some in pleasure, some in something else. And there it is, the object on the altar. Terracotta, dark red, smooth as polished skin, veins carved by hand. And at the base, a single inscription, traced in what looks like old wine or dried blood. To enter the divine, one must first be entered. You're not looking at a toy, you're looking at a relic. A sacred shaft used in rites designed not to worship the gods, but to feed them. And they were fed through bodies, willing ones, bound ones, royal ones. In the ancient world, sex was holy but never safe. The moment of climax, that wasn't just release, it was a portal, a ritual offering, a sacrifice wrapped in pleasure. Women were trained to take it, men were chosen to give it. But once it began, no one was in control, not even the high priests. You run your hand along the base. It's warm, not metaphorically, physically warm. There are bite marks on the shaft, deep ones, human teeth. Someone used this thing, and someone tried to stop them. The carvings behind it tell the rest. A priest kneels in ecstasy. A woman straddles an idol. A king's body lies beneath a pile of phalluses, his eyes rolled back, his mouth wide open. Whatever happened here was sacred and obscene, and powerful enough that Rome sealed it in ash and tried to forget it ever existed. You hear a sound behind you, stone shifting. You turn, but there's no one there. Only the air, thicker, sweeter, breathing. And you swear, for a split second, you feel fingers slide along your inner thigh. But you're alone, right? Right? Then why is the terracotta phallus pointing at you now? The god between her legs, now you're standing inside the temple of dual flesh. It's quiet, but not empty. The walls breathe. The stone sweats. And the altar, black marble, slick with old oils, looks freshly used. This isn't just where they came to worship. This is where they offered themselves. Women came here alone, veiled, anointed in cinnamon and honey. They'd lie on the altar, legs parted toward a statue of the god best dwarfish, grinning, permanently erect. A priestess would enter, silent, swaying, holding a ritual shaft carved from lapis and gold. The ritual was called the opening. No one was allowed to speak, just moan. The priestess would insert the shaft, slowly, reverently, reciting a prayer that sounds less like Latin and more like panting in a language no one speaks anymore. She wasn't bringing pleasure for the sake of it. She was opening a gate. To where? That's the part the translations don't explain. Or maybe no one survived long enough to write it down. In later rites, men were chosen, bound, blindfolded, milked into alabaster bowls by masked figures using phallic devices designed to vibrate, not from machinery, but from the hum of sacred stone. The fluids were collected, mixed, and offered. You think you're reading smut, you're not. You're reading a manual for divine possession, because once the god entered, the body stayed open. For hours, for days, until something came back through. Not all who were used walked away. Some were buried alive beneath the altar, their moans echoing through the cracks in the marble until the stone grew silent. You stare at the base of the statue. A groove is carved there. To drain, the groove is wet. The city that F*** ed itself holy ***, welcome to Pompeii. Now you've heard the jokes, the murals, the dicks on every corner. Tour guides call it sex positive. Cute. Here's the part they don't tell you. The entire city was built on a curse. It wasn't just brothels. It was temples of erotic bloodletting. Rites performed during eclipses where citizens would lay together in oil and sweat and breathless incantation, while hooded priests whispered the names of forgotten gods into their ears as they came. You pass a fresco where a man is being ridden by 3 women wearing jackal masks. One of them is holding a phallic club. She isn't using it to please him. She's using it to beat something out of him. Another room has hooks on the wall, leather restraints, and in the center no bed. Just a slab, grooved, stained. They called it the Room of Taming. It wasn't for punishment. It was for preparation. For what? For the god whose statue once stood here, Priapus, the protector of gardens, the guardian of doors, the devourer of men too proud to beg. Priapus wasn't some horny lawn gnome. He was wrath in erection form, and every year he demanded offerings. The texts say, 10 shall ride, 1 shall split, none shall speak. We still don't know what that meant, but what we do know. Priapus faced Mount Vesuvius, the volcano that buried the city in ash. And some say it wasn't geology, it was retaliation. Because the last rites went too far, and the god got bored of waiting. Her Majesty's personal collection, flash forward. Alexandria, 48 BCE now. You're in the royal chambers of Cleopatra VII. Forget what you've seen in movies. The real Cleopatra was not soft. She was brilliant, cruel, divine, and surrounded by sex magic. Her personal bed was built over a cavity in the floor. Below it, a hidden altar, burned offerings, a hollowed obsidian dildo inscribed with prayers to Hathor and Bastet, goddesses of lust, milk, and destruction. She didn't just rule, she channeled. Every phallic object in her chambers was enchanted, rubbed with oils infused with crushed opium, dipped in crocodile blood, heated before use. Some were said to scream when cooled. She believed climax in the presence of certain oils allowed her to read minds. And yes, she used it politically. She invited diplomats, seduced them, and during intercourse, listened. Not to them, to their souls. Her toys weren't hidden. They were weapons. She had one made from compressed glass designed to shatter inside an enemy's concubine if used more than once. A kind of divine landmine. The Romans called her a whore, but they feared her like a priestess of the apocalypse. And when Caesar died, she didn't weep. She bathed in milk and opened the gate again, because the god she'd been channeling was done whispering and ready to take her body for himself. The Oracle of Penetration, in Delos, Greece. There's a tomb. No name, just a sigil, 2 crossed shafts over a blindfolded eye. Now you crawl inside. What's left is bones, incense, velvet, and teeth marks on stone. Her title? The Dildo Oracle. She was said to be mute voluntarily. Her voice was saved for ecstasy alone. Once a month, women came to her for guidance. They lay on silk. The oracle straddled them with her sacred phallus, crafted from coral, blessed by the sea, worn smooth from years of prophecy. She would thrust until the truth came out. That's how it was recorded. Literally, her moans were interpreted by a scribe hidden behind a curtain. Moans had grammar. Moans had syntax. Some had names. When men tried to enter the rites, she laughed until she bled. Then she invited them in. One never left. They found his body later, split open from the inside. Because her phallus wasn't just for entering. It entered back, and some say she still moans beneath the island. On the full moon, when the sea grows thick, the shaft that howls. This one isn't a myth. It's in a museum. Well, was. Until they pulled it from the exhibit without explanation in 2008. Cataloged as a ceremonial fertility tool, the object was carved from black basalt, inlaid with teeth made from human molars, and coated in something no lab could identify. It howled. Not poetically, audibly. When placed on stone and left untouched, the object emitted a low-frequency wail, no speaker. No wind, just grief. It sounded like mourning from inside a cave. It was discovered in Etruria, 300 BCE, sealed in a chamber with the remains of a woman and 11 men, all dead, all smiling, all drained. Do not wake the bride of the shaft, someone did. In 2008, the museum staff reported unexplained bleeding, hallucinations, and sexual dreams that left bruises. They sealed the exhibit. Quietly, privately, then the curator vanished. His last message was a note that read, "It's not a toy. It's a god's mouth," and the shaft hasn't stopped howling since. The trials of penetration. Now you thought torture was whips and fire. Not in ancient Babylon. Here, the phallus was a judge and a weapon. The accused, usually women accused of adultery or men suspected of impotency, were subjected to the rite of entry. A sacred dildo, carved from cedar, coated in pitch, and engraved with 7 curses, was inserted by a priestess of Ishtar. If the body accepted it without tearing, innocent. If the body bled or resisted or screamed, guilty and executed. You read that right. The body's response to a sacred shaft determined your fate. Some were tested in front of crowds. Some begged to die before the rite. It gets worse. Some phalluses were booby-trapped. Tiny thorns inside, hooks, powdered lead. It wasn't about justice. It was about purity and pain. One record describes a woman who laughed during the trial. They say the phallus exploded inside her like a divine rejection. But here's the kicker. That same phallus was found centuries later, still intact, still warm to the touch, and its last owner? Buried with his mouth sewn shut and his tongue missing. The orgy that broke the sun. Rome 74 CE now, you're in the Domus. Aurea Nero's golden house. You walk through walls lacquered in pearl, past frescoes dripping with oil, blood, and bare skin. This wasn't a home. It was a stage. They called it an orgy, but that's like calling a human sacrifice a dinner party. This was the festival of divine overflow. One night a year, the palace would fill with nobles, slaves, actors, senators, drugged, perfumed, stripped, and bathed in milk. At the center of the room, a goddess, not a statue. A woman, chosen for her purity, which in Roman terms meant willing to be destroyed. She would lie on a rotating dais, and a sacred phallus, 6 feet long, made of silver and sinew, was lowered from the ceiling by ropes of braided human hair. One by one, they would mount her. Not for pleasure, for offering. Every climax fed the god. Every scream echoed into the rafters where Nero sat, moaning in time, whispering spells in Greek. And if she survived, she was executed. No vessel should be used twice. That was the rule. Some say this orgy went on for 9 days. No sleep, no water. Just wine and touch and chanting. Others say it never ended. It just changed names. But here's the record that matters. The night after the orgy, the sun didn't rise. Birds dropped from the sky, the milk-soured dot and the silver phallus. It began to bleed, and no one's been able to clean it since. The queen who married the shaft. This is where things stop being sexy. Cyprus, 112 BC, you enter the private temple of Queen Althea, known in scrolls as the Bride of the Bronze. She never took a king, never produced an heir. But she ruled for 31 years without a single rebellion. Her secret? A ritual marriage. Not to a man, but to a bronze phallus said to be forged from the blade of Ares himself. It was 10 inches wide, 4 feet long. It required a pulley system to accept. Every new moon, she was lowered onto it in a public square as the people wept and screamed prayers. The rite was called the Divine Binding. She claimed it gave her visions, that in the moment of ultimate pain, she could see the battlefield of the gods, hear the cries of unborn traitors, and curse anyone who dared plot against her. The bronze shaft was carved with thousands of names, every enemy who died under her rule. And here's where it turns from shocking to wrong. She began sacrificing lovers to the shaft. Men who pleased her were offered, their bodies drained of seed, burned in saffron, then rubbed into the bronze until it shone like fresh skin. She didn't die naturally. One night, the pulley snapped. They say her body split down the center, but kept moaning. And the shaft? It was found in 1993. Still slick, still humming. The twist, the sex toys were never toys. You step back, you've seen too much. All these phalluses, all these stories, different cultures, different centuries, same shape, same curse, and then it hits you. These weren't isolated rituals. They were a network, a system, a whisper passed between priesthoods and royal lines across empires. Egypt, Rome, Babylon, Greece, India, Persia, even early Celtic tribes. They all had them. Phalluses carved from sacred wood, molded from meteorite iron, some made of human bone, soaked in mother's milk and crushed date wine, all used in orgasmic rituals of power, death, and rebirth. They weren't sex toys, they were technologies, each designed to bind gods to flesh, harvest energy from climax, seal contracts in blood and fluid, manipulate the soul through the body's weakest point desire, and they didn't go extinct. They evolved. You find one in a Paris vault, sealed by the Vatican. Another hidden inside a Japanese temple, still warm. A third mailed to a museum with no return address, soaked in what looked like tears. It's a system, Mark. A global system of ancient sexual technology designed not to please, but to control. And the worst part? Some modern elite circles still use them. Sex magic, ritual penetration, controlled orgasms under eclipses. You think Eyes Wide Shut was fiction? T was a manual. And the last item on the list? It's missing. The gold phallus that disappeared from Pompeii. The bloodline cracks. It begins with a woman screaming in her sleep, not in fear, in ecstasy. But she doesn't stop. Hours pass. Her voice breaks, her body convulses, and then it splits. London, 1896. The daughter of an earl is found dead, smiling, soaked, and wrapped around a relic thought to be Ramon, an ivory shaft carved with Latin prayer. Doctors say it was heart failure, priests say it was possession. Her journals say something else. Asterisk, asterisk. He came with eyes of wine and a mouth of stone. I let him in. I let him taste me. I can still feel him. The relic disappears. Weeks later, 3 women across Europe die the same way. Always moaning, always smiling, always hollowed out. Bloodlines start collapsing. Royal heirs are born sterile. Priests dream of phallic idols dripping blood. Entire monasteries go silent. Libraries burn their own books. The church issues a decree. Destroy all relics of penetration not ordained by the Holy See. Too late, they missed one. The last heir of a cursed family just ordered a golden shaft to be unearthed from beneath Naples, and she plans to use it. The final offering. You watch the ritual begin. You're not supposed to be here. But the priestess, she looks at you like she knew you'd come. Like you're not just a witness, you're part of it. The room is ancient, wet, lined with faces carved into the walls, mouths open, gasping in stone. The golden shaft is on an altar of bone. You recognize it, the one from Pompeii, the one they said was gone. The priestess removes her robe. She's not alone. There are 11 others, masked, chanting in tongues that haven't been spoken since Babylon drowned. One by one, they anoint her body with sacred oil and blood. They bring the shaft forward. It glows, it hums, she accepts it. Not with lust, with hunger, with need. Her eyes roll back. The stone trembles. The walls crack. Outside, the sky opens. Storms without clouds. Animals cry out in fear. Screens go black. People around the world moan in unison, some in sleep, some in shock. The god is coming. The ritual continues. The priestess lifts the shaft to her mouth. She whispers one name. Your name. And you feel it enter you, across time, across space, across blood. Aftershock, the flesh remembers. You wake up soaked, bruised, moaning, alone. The shaft is gone. But the feeling isn't. Something inside you pulses, something old, something wet. You see flashes Cleopatra, the Oracle, the Queen of Bronze, all of them screaming your name, all of them inside you now. Around the world, people begin changing. Their dreams twist into orgies and blood rites. Their hands reach for objects they don't remember owning. Men moan in sleep and never wake up. Women grow pregnant with no lovers. The age of flesh begins again. You turn on the news. A Vatican vault has cracked open. A senator was found bound to an altar in D.C. A gold phallus is missing from a sealed exhibit in Tokyo. It's happening. The pleasure never died. It was just waiting. And now it wants a new high priest. She curse is the cure. You return to the chamber, the first one. The one beneath the museum. Everything starts here. Everything ends here. The air tastes like you remember iron and incense. The shaft is waiting. Still warm, still humming. You kneel. You remember the words. Not from books, from blood. To enter the divine, one must be entered. You offer yourself, again, fully, willingly. The moment it touches you, the pain is unbearable, the pleasure worse. Your body isn't yours. You are every moan in history, every cry of ecstasy, every sacrifice given in heat. You don't black out, you wake up inside someone else. Thousands of people, millions, all dreaming the same dream. The shaft is inside them. The God has entered the world again, this time through you. The flesh is the altar, the world is the vessel. And the next climax will crack the earth. You've been entered. You light a candle, you speak a name, yours, but not yours. You're not just a viewer, you're part of the ritual now. Every moan you've heard, every object you've seen, they've touched you, entered you, changed you. The God is in you now. The shaft remembers. The pleasure is awake. And it's hungry. You've been watching Blood and Empire. Subscribe. The next nightmare's already breathing.